This is Rydo, and we are back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, May 16th. We're starting late again, even later, nearly 7 o'clock at Central Time. This whole week is probably shot, if I was to guess. Just completely and totally shot as far as getting any live streams early, which kind of also sucks because we have a lot of news to go through as usual, and I just got notifications for the first time in a long time, which means somebody might actually have watched today, or more people might have watched had I not started so late. On the other hand, part of the reason why I'm starting late today is because I stayed up last night recording some Lego stuff. We need to do the Tavern Brawl, Lego The Force Awakens. Boy, is that not working. Like, it just feels rather bad. So I'm gonna try Hunter card, and we're gonna do this card and this card. No, that won't work because I'll use Explosive Trap like way too often. Let's try it just for fun. This shouldn't work at all. Definitely shouldn't work. Tons and tons of news. I think maybe I've figured out how to push my Twitter back into being kind of linear. Lots and lots of games have come out. Yeah, Lego The Force Awakens, it's just boring. I think partially it's because the episode 7 of Star Wars is basically just a remake of episode 4. It doesn't seem like it did it any better. It didn't seem like it really even did it very well at all. But there is also just levels and side stories that didn't have Finn or Rey on screen. That I feel like these elements did actually happen in the in the movie, and they were cut out of being story levels in the game. The best level I've played so far is where you're playing, for the most part, as the First Order, and you're capturing Rey, and it is just really odd to play an extra level that's not one of the 10 story levels, and it'd be way better. Meanwhile, the actual main story levels are just very much a pain in the butt and really long. Could easily been separated out in a way so that there was 15 levels instead of 10, and that making them snappy 20-minute sections. And they've kind of done that in recent Lego games by breaking up some levels into 3 discrete sections that you can select from when you're going to play it in free play mode, but it doesn't really fix it when you're playing it in story mode for the first time. And if you're playing in free play mode for the first time, you're probably going to have to run through the whole level anyways, so it's not really saving most players anything as far as any kind of time. What is that? What's going on over here? Oh, that's just the top of the video on the page I'm looking at. New cards. These are probably bugged out. I don't think these are new, but whatever. Let's mark them all off. So on my Asian account, we've got it we got 3 extra cards, and that was that. I kind of want to come back and play this again because we really didn't get to see that work, and that kind of sucks. And we need to just move on. So first game we have on Steam is called Noel, N-O-E-L, or Noel, The Mortal Fate S1 through 7. Is this actually a game? Yes, it is. English Simplified Japanese, 20% off for $11.99. No reviews on it. The trailer looks interesting. Let's see, what is this? Indie anime adventure 2D single player. And let's see what kind of game this really is. Oh, we're trade one of those out. Hit that. So I'm watching this trailer, and
quickly.
The trailer's not really giving me much. It does look like an interesting trailer for something that would have been a manga or anime with an interesting art style. It's a very erratic, sharp edges, squiggly lines done intentionally, an art style designed to invoke the idea of madness. Big, bold colors to evoke the concept of simplistic, stereotypical thinking. Yes, this is an RPG game. It doesn't quite look like an RPG Maker game. I mean, it might be, but the characters in RPG Maker are pretty similar throughout everything. This is weird. This is really weird because it looks interesting. It came out May 14th. It's rated positive with 10 user reviews. The developer that developed this, in part, there's 2 developers and neither one of them have anything on Steam, so this is like a first effort, I would argue, by a new Japanese company, although arguably I would say maybe you have to remember that a lot of Japanese companies are just set up kind of one-time shell corporations, like, so they never have any intention to make anything other than that one product. It is also being co-published by AGM Playism, which is a publisher who's published several actually really highly rated, of note games with the Japanese slightly weird games. I'm guessing I'm gonna have to wishlist this, even though it's really doing a terrible job to sell it, because I don't even know if it really is a RPG Maker game, or if it looks like it's an RPG but it doesn't even have a tag of RPG. So I guess I'm off to a fantastic start when I can't even identify the first game I'm looking at. Let's move on. Your Gamer has an article. Konami Zone of Enders 2 Remaster has a release date. I've probably gotten this information already from Gamasutra or Gametsu. Let's see. Mars Attacks. Let's see. It's coming out for Steam and PlayStation 4 on the 6th of September. One assumes that's for the entire West and not just for Europe. Let's see. Is this a fake game? Yes, this is a fake game. but in all fairness, this is kind of a meme game as more than it's a fake game. It's called Gopnik Simulator, which I think is like, if I'm roughly understanding it, Gopnik is kind of a Russian gangster type, just hooligan is what it looks like. I'm thinking Russian. I could be wrong about that. But in this instance of the game, it is at the very least animated in an actual game, and it's 40% off for 59 cents. So, like, it's a clicker game certainly, but it's not done poorly enough that I would put it in the category of a extremely low quality fake game. It's more of a meme game, and that's all I'm gonna really say about it. I guess it doesn't really need to be advertised. It's still arguably, depending, like, I would be willing to entertain arguments that meme games done at high quality should be allowed on Steam in exchange for fake games and asset flips not being allowed on Steam. Because I could see some audience, somebody thinking that they actually want to play. They actually want to play some of the meme games. I can't see any legitimate argument of anybody wanting to play a fake game. Next game we have on Steam is called Click.O.Fast. It looks like a very simplistic, boxes are appearing on the screen, one screen game, where you're clicking on red boxes or green boxes. Let's see, it's only in Russian. It's 40% off for 59 cents. This would be closer, in my opinion, to a description of a game that is extremely low quality. But even at this, it doesn't feel like it's still hit that level. However, this is from the developer who has made certainly a lot of other fake low quality games. I think I'm gonna stop calling them fake games. Like, I think that doesn't explain it well. I don't think it's an accurate enough description. To say a game is fake is a very subjective term, where if I say something is extremely low quality, it still is a very objective term, but it gets closer to what people mean. They don't want games like this next game from the exact same developer called Faster that are one-screen games and very simplistic and probably not worth the minimum 60 cents that they're selling for. Again, this is in Russian only. Like, again, this is a game that Faster looks like it could have been a student project. Hey, I got a free victory. I will take it. I'd like to get up a little bit higher in ranked play before the end of the month, but I'm certainly not going to waste a lot of time trying that. Next game we have on Steam is called Compound. It's an early access action indie VR retro game. And what it is if you took Wolfenstein 3D, skinned it so that you're in a compound that's more of a, it looks like a nuclear waste facility, I would say, and it's in VR 3D elements, so you're leaning and you're tilting. I don't know which headset actually has leaning and tilting as an option, do they both have that, or is that just the Rift, or is that just the Vive? And this actually looks interesting as a concept, but I imagine everything I've ever heard about people actually trying to play VR, I imagine this would be a complete nightmare of an experience. Even if you're just doing one level and then taking a break for a day and doing the next level, I feel like you have a chance of getting motion sick and probably just a higher chance of getting exhausted and dizzy. But this is definitely a real game, Compound. English, full audio, room scale, standing only, single player, early access, $19.99. You're paying quite a bit for it. But it certainly is fixing the one thing that we consistently see as a problem with other VR games, which is you're not standing in the same place and having zombies or some kind of enemy walking towards you. It's one of the positive reviews, which it has 36 positive reviews and no negative reviews, which is a rather high amount. It is worth mentioning, I think, right now that Beat Saber, which by far, in my opinion, is the most successful and popular VR game, has sold, I think it was 50,000 copies in 3 days. That's saying quite a lot to say that there are even 50,000 active users of VR headsets in the video game world. It's a tiny pittance compared to the 5 million, 50 million sales you might get for a regular video game, but it's still quite a lot, in my opinion, than just I would have even expected. I would have thought the number would have been extremely less than 50,000. Like, and you certainly can't beat the fact that this is one of the first VR games I've seen that actually has interested me, and I'm actually having to think, do I want to put this in my wish list? 100% positive reviews with 32 reviews. Came out May 15th. Let's see, the developer has done nothing else. But honestly, if you have VR, I would say check out Compound. You're paying a premium of $20, but you're getting an actual good experience, which is saying quite a lot. However, for me, I think if I ever get a VR headset, which is a big if, and I don't know how in the world I'd play VR and microphone myself and record any of that, it would be such a new experience in which I would just go through Steam and search all of the VR games and start picking out things that I probably would run across Compound again, or run across something even better. Next game we have is called Exalla, E-X-A-E-L-L-A. Says it's an action-adventure indie anime cyberpunk game, but then the description says it's a 3D side-scrolling game where you must guide the chief operator through dark corridors in a artificial sleep center. You must solve multiple tasks, gather resources, and defend itself and helplessly sleeping patients. The trailer is a full-on animated intro that it's almost, I think it's trying to do a Inception reference on the trailer, and the video didn't show me anything. 3D side-scroller. I thought it was going to be a bullet hell shooter, but no, that is not what this is. This is a side-scroller platformer. You're shooting people, but I don't think you're doing too much of that. It's got an anime girl character that might be not original, but whatever. Wow. I guess it's a good day to irritate people by not playing. And we'll just keep doing that, I suppose. Apologies to anybody who wanted to see me actually play. I actually do have to play eventually. You could make the argument that you're fighting what looks like a lot of zombie characters, and most of these screenshots are face-up, like close-up face-up shots of the character, and then there's only a handful of pictures that seem to indicate actual gameplay. This is an English and Russian language game, 15% off for $4.24. It looks like a real game, but the very first review, as I scroll down here, and I'm a little surprised by this, is not recommended. It says the game's anime art style is beautiful, the atmosphere is there, but the gameplay process is very bland and boring. The interface is very unresponsive, and there are rarely even hints explaining what you've got to do to the user. As an example, if you press E to interact with the machinery and people, but the game doesn't tell you that you have to press the up arrow to transition between the main home and the elevator. When I finally got to fight some enemies, the battles turned out to be clunky and tedious that I just had to quit. Allow me to explain. I've encountered two types of enemies so far. Bandage girls, you've got to stand there and fire about 14 bullets to put one down. Robots firing energy balls, you're supposed to dodge them by crouching, but your character cannot fire or crouching for some reason, so your character finished the crouching animation, stands up to fire at the robot is firing a second bullet of energy, so you've got to crouch again. All in all, I feel like the game was way too tedious to even bother trying to go further to the second level. Unfortunately, I can't recommend the game right now. Too long, didn't read. Unfortunately, the game falls victim to clunky interface, mind-numbingly boring gameplay, and a very uninspired battles. And then the next review says, not recommended, the art is great, the music is throbbing and intense, the gameplay I could get to was not great. I got stuck about 9 minutes in and something was with no clear way to get past. Have to give it a thumbs down for now. And I just don't know how you get to that point. The plot of this game is an alternate version of the events from the animation film Excella. And I think then it probably is not even a legal product. Possibly. Like, I'm not gonna throw spurious allegations here, but it does kind of feel like maybe they took some anime models from some property they didn't own, or maybe less nefariously, they did own Excella, made an interesting animation film, and then are trying to recoup some of their money by, let's see, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to just end the turn. And the problem with the idea of thinking that the two developers, which are the names of the people who made the game, were the people who made Excella, is that just doesn't make sense. So I'm going to do a little bit of actual research, which is certainly rare in the field of being a video game journalist. Excella 2011 IMDb and zoom in. Let's see. Andrew Aldrich was the writer. It is the creators of the animation. Okay, so I'm kind of seeing what they're doing.
Your magic shall not save you.
They're trying to make some more money on the animation, and this must have been a Russian written, I would say Russian written anime that then had some animators, maybe from Japan, maybe from Korea, do some of the animation, or maybe they animated it themselves, and then they had some Japanese voice actors or Asian voice actors, because I saw on the IMDb there was definitely some voice actors there. So this is cross-promotional, this game, Excella, but I can't wishlist it. I really can't. In the end, it's the same as the bad movie tie-in games that we've seen. There's been some good movie tie-in games, a lot of which are now becoming VR things. Excella, I severely suspect they didn't have the skill, and they have no interest on making the game work better. And just because it has a pretty art style doesn't really mean anything in the video gaming world, because that's almost every game that we even give any consideration to, is it's got some kind of visually appealing art style. I very rarely am I willing to even consider a game if it's not appealing. Next game we have is called A Semblance Oversight, which A Semblance is a weird world. It's a first-person exploration game or a walking simulator and puzzle-based game, so not quite a walking simulator. You're part of a team of scientists and engineers charged with using a classified technology to aid in recreating the human mind. And it says it's adventure indie. Okay, so I'm looking at the trailer. You're walking around the forest area, you're walking around kind of a medical type facility. I wonder if we're having issues with connectivity right now. Well, I'm gonna ride any issues with connectivity all the way to the end if I can get away with it. There's nothing wrong so far as what these screenshots look like. It does look like you might be in some emptier environments, not full of animals or people, but there are people certainly. This game is $9.99. There's a bundle that... Okay, so there's a previous game called A Semblance. So I would assume you want to play A Semblance before you'd want to play A Semblance Oversight. Is there any reviews and all? There's a recommended review. There's 3 reviews and they're all positive, so that doesn't really mean anything to me. You gotta break about the 20 review mark. This looks like it would be a peaceful little walk around puzzle game, something along the lines of like The Witness, except for a lot shorter and a lot more varied. Certainly a lot of these environments could be little bits of assets here and there, but you can't really call it an asset flip because they're placed nice, placed well, and makes sense for the kind of nonsensical story that the world is in, the nonsensical world that the story is set in. The problem here is
Speak your piece.
only 66% of 81 user reviews gave a semblance a positive review. And so then when you have a decent number of games on Steam that are like this, and I would say there is quite a decent number of half walking simulators, half puzzle games, and it's rated mixed, I don't think that should be in a wish list. I think I have to have a level of curation to say I don't need to wish list and want to play a mediocre game. This is the type of game that I would be much better off being recommended or gifted directly from a fan if they absolutely wanted to see me play this game instead of the large number of other games that are very similar to this, because it isn't getting reviewed high enough to stand up amongst the crowd. Moving on to the next game, we have 1943 Deadly Desert. It says it's a strategy game. It's a real-time strategy game. It is zoomed in a lot more than you usually see in a real-time strategy game. Hex tile based, flying helicopters and tanks and stuff, probably trying to stay in line with the 1943 time period.
Your magic shall not save you.
Let's see, 2 user reviews at 64%, so a lot of language support, 10% off for $8.99. I'm not a huge fan of real-time strategy games in the first place. Well, no, down here it says it's 2 positive reviews, so that doesn't really mean anything. It's always so odd that the review number is different at the top than it is at the bottom. Let's see.
Die, mage.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of real-time strategy, and I'm definitely not a fan of military games. Although, to be fair, a military game set in a desert fight with tanks and vehicles war versus the standard trench warfare that you usually see across, I guess, the European continent. I could certainly see a appreciable variety there.
Die, mage.
This Townsman VR. This is from the same developer slash publisher. Nope, I haven't heard of that game. I thought it was a different game. They've made Townsman. Yeah, I think that's the one I'm thinking of. They came out in 2016, and it's an Ages of Empires game. It's rated neutral. Some of their VR games are rated positive. In fact, I'd say they have more positive games than even neutral games, and no negative games. But nothing that this developer really offers, Handy Games, feels like it's extremely interesting games or extremely good quality games. It feels like a lot of half-baked, very basic, simple games. There certainly is this weird line where some companies don't do anything original, and this feels like a company that that isn't going in any original directions as far as its gameplay and its type of games. And then you have usually the AAAs and the extremely indie games that will come out with something that has never been seen before. Like Super Hot, I guess, is a great example of a game that there's nothing too similar to that, where a military real-time strategy game is kind of a dime a dozen product. So yeah, I have no reason to wishlist that one. Next game we have is called Overhead, and
Job's done.
it's got dark screenshot syndrome. It looks like it could just be asset flips. It says it's an adventure indie violent. A bunker evacuated miles below Earth. You kept frozen and forgotten until now. And Overhead is a first-person game of exploration, puzzles, and terror. Survive. So many of these games exist. All-time peak of 2 people. 10% off for $6.29. And 1 positive review. One positive review with the YouTube link. And yeah, I could certainly see YouTubers playing this, tons of games like these, but they're kind of nothing. It's the first game by this developer and publisher, but the publisher and developer is a different name. So I don't know if these are real companies or if these are just made up. I think there's inherently a problem with Steam in which people are doing business as in an illegal fashion, in a fraudulent fashion, hiding their identity without doing what local law would require, to tell the government, look, you're acting as this company, you're pretending to be this company. We need to know that in case somebody wants to file a complaint against you. I think a lot of people are just making up words, just making up company names. They're not filing the LLC papers or whatever it would require, which I have no clue what it really would require, but I know it requires something, and I suspect people are not doing it. As for Overhead, there's really nothing to say about it. It doesn't look that interesting. They're not showing any enemy, any puzzle at all in the screenshots. So for all I know, there are no puzzles or enemies. Moving on, we have Spartan Fist, which says it's an indie action gore violent first-person cute game. So you're in first-person perspective, actually in first-person perspective, which I've come to a realization, a lot of times I will say a first-person shooter and not be 100% certain that the game is actually a first-person shooter. I think a lot of times if it's a militaristic shooter, third-person over-the-shoulder perspective, I think I still might accidentally call it a first-person shooter. This is an actual first-person game. You are seeing only your hands. There are these little voxel boxing gloves. You're fighting other voxel characters. This seems like it's a kind of an arena fighter boxing game almost. But you're in these areas where you can knock people into blades and fire traps and oncoming subway trains. So it's a boxing slash I would say boxing slash platform fighting game. Keep on playing. And now they're showing a second trailer that is a live action version of this. There's really not anything more to see. Every single screenshot is just the gameplay. Can't really do anything. It's single player only, which seems odd. Like, how can it be single player only when it clearly should be a game that's multiplayer? It's 10% off for $13.49. So if it's single player, you know you're just fighting against AI. The AI doesn't look terrible in the trailer. Let's see. It's part of an indie mega booth at some point. Let's see. 13 positive reviews, 3 negative reviews. Let's do this. The first not recommended review is shallow game, poor response time and registry, overall not very fun. Next not recommended is the combat is not great, sometimes your punches won't connect at all, specifically with Claw Gauntlet, the alternate attack is pretty good. And when the game is literally centered on melee combat and it doesn't work, I think we've got a problem. It feels like it was made for a controller, but in the worst way possible. The aesthetic is nice, the soundtrack is so repetitive I ended up muting the game. It is also really buggy. The first boss, Malmax, can hurt you on his intro cinematic, and his AI is so stupidly easy that to exploit it's actually impossible to lose. Not worth 15 bucks at all. Expect the approximate 50 to 60% price drop in the coming weeks. What is it selling for now? 10% down to $13.49. And I tend to agree. Also, it looks like it would be a game that you could play in VR, but it doesn't have VR support, so it feels like it's a unfinished, pushed out project. Let's see, it's from the developer Glass Bottom Games that made Jones on Fire, which was a game I did like playing on my phone as kind of an interesting mobile game. And then their most recent last game that I recall is Hot Tin Roof, the cat that wore a fedora. That's 90% off right now for $1.49. It's rated positively. And yeah, nothing really else. So it feels like maybe Glass Bottom Games is having some trouble finishing products. I wouldn't be surprised if they get acquired or shut down. I'm gonna wishlist Jones on Fire though, to be fair. 83% out of 55 users recommended it. I liked it on my phone as a game. It's a very simplistic game, and it's probably not the best game in the world to play on a PC, but because you're not going to get anything from playing it on PC. It's a very low polygon voxel based game where you're just playing this firewoman who's going through procedurally generated platformers, jumping and dodging and trying to collect stray kittens. And the kittens, I believe, are the currency in the game, so the more cats you collect, the more abilities and items you can unlock. So we got a lot of duplicate games here that I'm closing. We've already talked about them.
Reality woven.
My Twitter in particular has gone insane with just repeating itself over and over again with the "in case you missed it" tag. I've finally just clicked that and said, stop showing me this, or you can't say stop showing me this, but you can say show this less often. I think that's been the problem, is that instead of just being chronological, it's been giving me these long strips of news feeds that are, in case you missed it, news feeds that are then pushing the chronological thing at the below the bottom, so I miss other things. That's the best I can figure right now. Maybe next week there's a decent chance I'll have some other theory as to what's going on. Next game we have is called Psycho Squirrels. No user reviews, came out May 15th. Says it's an indie casual. Seems like it's a really zoomed out platformer that it definitely looks like it's a mobile phone port. I'm pretty sure it even said somewhere here that it was a mobile phone port. Let's see, at the bottom it says Psycho Squirrels is being developed solely by Scott Bullard. Scott is an independent game developer who made Psycho Squirrels in his spare time. So, no reviews on it. And frankly, no pity. You're selling it for $1.99. You've got no discount on it. And you're putting it on Steam for sale. So you've got a full product. If you want to be an indie person who made a game on their spare time, put it on itch.io. Don't put it on Steam, where it is going to compete against the AAA products. Alright, so it's not a platformer, it doesn't seem, as much as it is a kind of puzzle where you have to flip these squirrels into the right place, and once you've launched them in the right place, you can do very little to actually manipulate what they're going to do. So the squirrels seem to be acting independently of the player. Yes, and on the trailer it does say Google Play and Amazon and Steam. There's really no reason for this to be on Steam. Leave it on the mobile phone. That would be the better move. Gamasutra has an article, satirical game used to push back against Germany's ban on Nazi symbols. The point that they're pushing back is that in Germany, Nazi symbols are allowed to be in historical documentaries and movies, usually, and books, and every other thing that's been labeled as art. But video games specifically have not been considered art. And so they are just blanket banned. And people are certainly not happy with the concept and the state of affairs where every other form of artistic expression is allowed within some limitations to use those symbols. I think it is still limited to providing, not putting them in a positive light, but games are straight up blanket banned, which certainly hurts, like Wolfenstein, that has to then make different edits just to make sure they're not banned. But a game called Buns Fighter, B-U-N-D-E-S Fighter 2 Turbo, has made a political satire wrapped in a Street Fighter-esque browser game released by the Funk Media Group to coincide with the 2017 elections, and the German authorities have reportedly declined to take action against it. One of the Buns Fighter 2 Turbo characters, representing German politician Alexander Gauland, G-A-U-L-A-N-D, has a special move pictured where his arms and legs form a swastika.
One for all and all for me.
In a pose mirroring the Nazi swastika. Yeah, that's what I just said. I'm reading an article and jumping ahead. German laws bans using Nazi imagery in video games, and so a member of the game industry consumer rights group VDVC, the Verband for Deutschland's Video und Computerspiele, seems to have intentionally filed a complaint against the game in order to provoke a legal decision about whether games can, like other forms of art in Germany, be exempt from Nazi imagery ban if they're using it in an educational or satirical context. So this is certainly a staged event trying to force the laws to change and make some political hay while they're at it. Not even see my mouse. And I would like them to readdress that and fix things. It's really a silly idea that to think that Germany is going to end up becoming a Nazi state again because they see the symbols. If anything, there's much better arguments that Germany is moving towards being a totalitarian Nazi-like state simply based on just their political policies and the way they think and the way they pass laws and take actions. And I'd say they're much closer to being a totalitarian controlling state like so many other European countries than they are becoming a warlike state, like Nazi Germany. But that certainly is getting into politics that is highly speculative too. So next we have the Conan Exiles review from PC Gamer, giving it a 65, which is an incredibly low score for PC Gamer, who's known to be pretty typical to give everything a 75, even if it's a average game. Their verdict is, it is broad in shoulder, wide in scope, rougher on the edges, nevertheless an enjoyable, meaty survival game. Of course, I would heavily argue that survival games are done. We've had our Minecraft, we've had our fill of survival games, we've played Rust, we've done everything else. I don't think there's really a need or desire to play any more survival games for the next half decade or so. For survival mechanics are not really showing up in things like Overwatch or Fortnite or PUBG. Instead, it's just back to the shooting. And Conan Exiles, I think, has gotten all of the money it can get. Well, we've gotten all of the daily quests done for the Asian account. We've gone about 45 minutes, so that is the right time. Nobody's on the chat, no real surprise there because we started way too late. This whole week is gonna probably start really late. So apologies for that. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. When you subscribe, please click the notification bell. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. I need to, at some point, adjust my links to having a Twitch account. Also, pointed out, I put more work into the Twitch account, and my channel sort of looks like my channel on YouTube, but there's still a ton of features that are missing as far as just little customizations and having it look like anything that I actually had my hand in creating versus just default templates that you have to have by Twitch. There's a lot more you can customize, certainly on your main channel on YouTube, for whatever that's worth. Okay, moving on, we're wrapping up. If you want to support me even further, gift me a game on Steam or gift me a gift card. Remember, the Steam summer sale is coming up, and I desperately, more than ever, because there's been no ad revenue on this channel, no ads have been placed on this channel since basically January. So I more than ever need help on funding and buying more games. I'd like to, in the summer sale, go from the 900 games I have to 1,000. It's probably not going to happen. I'm not sure I'm going to buy anything other than the Pinball Arcade games. And that's going to be it during the summer sale. So that it'd be super helpful if during that sale you give games to me, save yourself some money, or before that sale, sending me gift cards. That's the best thing right now. Remember, I don't have a Patreon. I'm not asking for money in any other way. Maybe at some point in the future I will. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.